Hello. How are you all today? I think I said everything correctly so you can hear me. Got a little kitty who wants me to go sit down with her, but I can't do that because I'm going to sit down with all of you. So she has to come sit with you. Say hi. Yeah, okay. You're annoyed, I know. People are not doing your bidding, and they should be. So, hi, Bob and Julie. Just to especially let Quindy know, because I know she's gonna be here the whole time. We're under like a wind advisory, which is not unusual, but we did have a little. I heard a transformer go and a little power blip earlier, so there is a small chance, and I do think it is just a small chance, that I will get knocked off. So, what can I do with Kitty sitting here? I can talk about color, which is what I was going to do to begin anyway. Switch over to the other view. So, I've been working on this figure. Maybe I'll zoom in just a little bit while showing the figures, which is the figure of the month from Reaper. So, I believe you can still get this. I don't think they ran out. Quindy will instruct everyone to panic if something happens. And that's why she's such an excellent moderator. So the past two shows, I think, I've been painting this. Last week's show, I shared a little trick for how to paint some stuff a little more quickly. So all of the kind of brown, neutral type areas, including that blue sleeping roll, were painted with the same undercolor. And then I used glazes over them to distinguish them, which is how some of the areas on the web store model, which is this one, were painted. So I'm kind of doing a tabletop version of this, and then also trying to improve on some stuff that I don't think I got quite enough contrast here. I think her clothes are a little dull. Just the cloth parts, I mean. And then her face could have been a little brighter as well, so I've tried to do that on... Hello camera. Can I press the button without disturbing the kitty? Maybe. On this one. So now I will show you the two color schemes. So these are both variations of yellow. Maybe do it like this. Looks better, I don't know. Yellow, blue, red triadic color scheme. So this is the original one, the web store one. And then this is no, I am incorrect. This is the original one. And then this is the one for the figure that I've been working on the show the past couple of weeks. So you can see that the skin on the revised version has a little more yellow in it. And I went a little lighter in value as well as a little more saturated in color on the blue and the pink. Then the tabletop one I've been working on, I used metallics because I thought that would also be an interesting thing to compare. And then these colors at the bottom, so this row on the new one, this row on the new one, and then this row on the original were the colors that I used. Oh, thanks for the subscription, Sarah Clipwa. These were the colors that I used for the underpainting of all of the kind of leathery, the areas that weren't meant to be super eye-catching. So all of the junk that she's having to carry around for these entitled adventurers. And then these colors underneath are the same in both figures. And those were what I used over the underpainting to add the color. I don't think I did as much contrast in the underpainting as I should have, but on the second one, I mean. I think I'm mostly happy with the first one for the underpainting. But there are a few little sections left to paint on her. So this is partly an example of how you can take the color schemes that the color wheel gives you, which if you just look at a color wheel, do I have one? You know, those seem like super bright colors. So how are you painting someone who's, more of a peasant or not as well off like a hireling? How are you painting a thief or, something that's been undead for a long time and their clothes are really worn? but using the suggestions of a color scheme. And that's kind of how you do it. You take the idea of those colors and you use less saturated versions. So this is an even less saturated version. And this is a slightly more saturated version. So there's a range of what you can do with that. So again, you're still happy, which is weird. Normally you would want to leave by now. Okay, now you're going to have to say hello to the people again. Oh, that's your cranky face, because I won't go do what you want. I know. I don't know why. 2 p.m. on Mondays, you really want me to pay attention to you. It's like she knows I'm supposed to be doing something else, because that is how cats are. But I also have, I guess I'll go back to the other view for a minute. This hench person that I was working on earlier, her partner in hench, I guess, that I can work on if I get finished the other one or while things are waiting to dry. So I didn't get super far in this one. It's actually, I think, kind of a similar color scheme right now. I was thinking of doing like a peach color for her jacket, her clothing, which kind of makes it another twist on red, blue, yellow. But I probably, oh, there she goes. Be careful. Probably should twist the other two components of that color scheme a little as well. And I also have the snowmen, the Eldritch, I think they're called Eldritch snowmen. They were like special Christmas miniatures. They aren't currently available now, but there's something called monstrous snowmen that are a similar idea if you feel like you need some snowmen right now to beat up on your players. And with these, I was testing different shade colors for white. So I do want to come back to these, but I don't think that'll end up being today, but I thought I should bring them over just in case. So we've been having like freaky warm weather. The other day, I had the AC on, I was wearing sandals, we were getting mosquito bites. I'm going to switch the camera just for a minute because I want to move this a lot closer and I don't want to make anyone dizzy. So it doesn't feel like snowman weather to me right now, but I'm very much expecting that it's going to get cold and turn around on us. So I'm keeping the snowmen in reserve for March when I expect that to happen. And if it doesn't, well, I will just paint them in an effort of thinking of cooler things. Get my palette ready. I forgot to put palette paper on it before I started. But I'm going to actually show the palette briefly. Just to give you a couple of tips. So when I got the exemplar palettes, which is if you were at ReaperCon, or if you bought I don't remember which of the boxes it was, but you could get an exemplar palette in there. It didn't come with this. This was from the Kickstarter. But if you have an old gift card or something, it is pretty handy for getting the wrinkles off of your palette paper when you put it down and it's all twisting and popping up. That is very helpful. And I find it's also helpful to have like a little bottle of water that I keep on my desk so that if either my rinse cup or my palette need a bit more water while I'm in the middle of something, I can just fix it and get on with my day. And then not remember where I put that on my desk apparently. All right, I will zoom back in for painting. I think I dialed the brightness up enough, but I guess we will see if it seems like you can't see anything or if it doesn't seem like it's the right color. So what is left on this overburdened henchperson Marina? So there's the big sack, which on this one I painted with kind of a burlap texture. So I might see if I can do like the cheaty version of that, because what you can see on the screen is probably what I could get out of the cheaty version, where if you could really see this in a photo, those little lines are all over. They're not just, in a few places on the highlights. And then the ropes. I didn't have time to paint the ropes last time. And I think did I paint I feel like I painted some of the leather straps, but I don't know if I painted all of them. Let me put my magnifier on and we'll find out. Oh, but first I'm gonna give you a trivia thing to do while you're waiting for me to. So this is a, where is it? Hobby-related injury. And I'm going to accept guesses as to how that was caused. I will give the clue that I was not at my desk when that happened. I was not actively hobbying at the time, if that helps. Oh, and the base. So I will take guesses, because I kind of can't believe that. Like, what? Really? Really? I'm going to start darker. Oh, I better do the ropes first, because they're under things. Or at least start getting some paint on them. I don't know if you can hear my windows shaking from the wind, because that's definitely happening. There's a little bump under there that a bump right there that is probably from it being a print. And if you're not familiar with this is a 3D print, like everybody's copy is a 3D print. Reaper has a way to do them commercially, I guess I would say. And in 3 weeks ago, which may not be on Twitch anymore, but it would be on Reaper's YouTube channel, the video from that session, I showed photos so you could see it better than you can see it on the camera, and then I talked about how I prep that kind of material, which is the same way I would prep a nice cast resin. I find that I need some of my cover up the white bits. Pendrake TG could hear heavy rain while I was streaming. We are in very different parts of the country. But apparently both of those parts are getting some weather problems. I think we are in the overall zone of whatever big storm is happening, but we're at the very edges, so we shouldn't have much more than what's happening now, just rain and wind, which, as I say, is not a super unusual thing for us to have. So I'm going to go with a fairly light color, and where am I? I'm going too far that way. And then use a wash instead of getting too persnickety with it. So Quindy guesses ghosts, and I cannot confirm, but I also cannot refute that it could be ghosts. So it's possible. It's very weird ghost. I'm gonna bump up the lining in a few places, assuming I can figure out how to stay on camera, which apparently I'm struggling with today. I have a little tape mark. Maybe I usually put it at the bottom. All right, I'm going to move this again, so I'll come over here so you don't get dizzy. Let's move it down a little. Pendrake also had high winds last night. I don't think you'll be able to hear the wind, but it makes our really crummy windows shudder sometimes, and that you might be able to hear because there is a crummy window just a few feet away from me, out of view of the camera. Someday we will get windows replaced. Years ago, we had one of those window companies in to quote us. We didn't literally laugh him out of the house when he said the number, but it was pretty close. It was like, oh, okay, bye now. You may move on. we are not the people you're looking for. Oh, this lighter color is aged bone, which I have always liked. Queenie Lure, Rhonda's house is haunted by hobby ghosts. Confirmed. Oh, I didn't hear a cat. So I don't know if that was actually a window. But sometimes I think my husband hears them better than I do sometimes. I think for the sake of my sanity, have learned to sometimes tune out the sadness of cats because there's always a cat being sad somewhere around here. Humans just are not living up to expectations. There's not enough treats, there's not enough love, there's not enough going outside on the leash for Corbin. I think if my husband did take him out right now, he'd get weird because of all the whooshing and whatnot. It's also a new dog next door. So we had 3 dogs next door before, so I don't know if it's kind of an upgrade, but this one, I mean, the others were not small, but I think this one's a bit bigger and scarier. So Corbin immediately comes back inside if the dog is out or gets let out while he's doing his thing, even though the dog is very well fenced in. But Corbin is extremely cautious about dogs, which is probably a smart thing on his behalf. I suspect he had some... Oh, the thump, thump, thump is the windows, I think. I suspect he had some run-ins with dogs while he was living out on the street that he has not forgotten. Because he is smart and cautious. Well, I'm not doing a great job of dexterity on that one. I'm going to blame it on my injury. My grievous injury that was caused by color wheels. I wish I were making that up. I was going through some stuff on a shelf. We're trying to declutter. I'm trying to clean up my hobby area, which is also like my computer room, a room I do other things in. So I was going through stuff on a shelf, and I have 2 giant color wheels, one the traditional, and, well, not giant, just not the pocket ones that most of us use. Because for some reason, before I started streaming, I thought they would work better on camera, and they do not because they are too big to go under the camera. But the cyan magenta one only comes in that size, I think. They don't have a pocket version of that. So that one I was kind of stuck with one way or another. I see that I forgot the wood of those, and perhaps we also want to paint these fletchings. I painted them blue on the other one, but we can always change that with glazes, so I'll just do it at the same time as I'm doing these ropes. In fact, I think I did mean to do them at the same time when I was doing the underpainting, because I see now that they are dark, so I probably meant to come back and underpaint them up. I will also have to paint the wood so that it doesn't look like crummy unattended primer like it does right now. So yes, so I have the color wheels together in a packet, and they're wheels, they're round, and they rolled off of the shelf and slammed into my arm hard enough to both bruise and scrape me. And I'm like, okay, what is the world trying to tell me with that one? So that's how my weekend went. No, apart from that, it was fine. This is Moangi Brown, which I used on her skin shadows. But basically, it's just because it was there. More than anything else. I will probably dull it down a little as I add some highlights. I just wanted a dark brown to establish things. I'm okay if that rope looks a little patchy, but let's start on the bag of it too. Quinny definitely sounds like a poltergeist to me. A color-hating poltergeist, presumably. Or one that hates the color I use at any rate. It's like... really feels like a bit of a critique, but no. I have now put them in a square folder so that this will no longer happen. This is Ruddy Leather that I used as the glaze on some of the underpainted stuff to have like a reddish brown. And this is a different color than I used on, like I used a much duller brown, I think like wood stain and show brown and stuff like that on this one. But since this is the, you know, this thing that she's carrying is on the back, and it's, you know, it can be the focus of attention, the fact that she has to carry this giant sack can draw more attention on the back. I mean, there's a little bit of it at the front, but I'm kind of interested to see if having a reddish brown with the pinker pink works, or if it is a little too clashing. You know, like they'll be competing to be the red in this color scheme, which is the advantage of having had the duller color on the original, is that I didn't worry about doing some reddish browns and having them in the pink compete. Yes, I have to remember to get this little bit at the front, because forgetting that very much seems like something I would do. I have not painted the hands yet, so I'm not going to worry about that. That is also on the list for today. I would have liked to, but sometimes the way the sculpt is, like getting into, you can see how much dark paint there is on the fingers in there, because I did originally do like a base coat, and I was like, maybe I'll try painting the hands, and I was like, no, there's just not going to be any way to get in and paint the blue and the straps and all of that stuff without getting stuff on the hands. Which, speaking of the straps, I guess I'd better confirm or deny that I've painted those, and I feel like I have not. So, well, except I painted that. Maybe I didn't get all the straps. I'll just pump them up a little bit while this first coat dries. Actually, that's not 100% true. I'm going to do my wash on the rope, and then do that, because the wash will take a minute to dry. So, Quinny Lou, you might want to start thinning your paints with holy water just to be safe. Well, I'm hoping that having taken the step of putting them in a square, not that something else can't figure out a way to attack me, I guess. I'm just going to use Dungeon Gray, was one of the grays I used in the underpainting, and possibly what I used on the base. I don't know. We'll find out. I'm just going to thin a little bit of that down. I like kind of a grayish, tannish color for rope, I guess. You know, if those two words really go together, which they don't, but I should probably look some rope up. I'm always telling you all about using references and stuff, and honestly, I don't know that I ever really have researched what rope looks like. I was counting on my dim childhood memories. My parents have a boat. It's a sailboat, so naturally there are a decent amount of ropes involved, or sheets, as you may call them sometimes when it's sailing. I feel like I keep missing little spots. I'm bad at washes that way. Oh, and let's go ahead and wash these feather things that I've once again forgotten the name of. Fletching. I don't know why my brain does not want to retain the word fletching anymore. Alright, so that will have time to dry while I revisit the leather straps and whatnot. So I made all like that kind of accessory leather, super dark, partly because there were a lot of places where I wasn't going to be able to reach everything. So I wanted it just to not be that noticeable in some spots. And then I picked blue liner because that was kind of what I was using as a shadow, but it also helps with the, I'm kind of alternating cool and dark, or cool and warm colors. So like the pink and the ruddy brown are warmer, and then the blue and the gray are cooler, although it is a warm gray. And that will hopefully help. All of these different things stand out from one another, because that's kind of the challenge with a figure like this is there's a lot going on. I want to, identify or help the viewer see each of these items, but I also don't want them to stand out too much, like they're not. Everything can't be the focus, the center of attention. So the idea that I'm going for is she's got a lot of stuff, but we're still going to focus on her. We're just going to get the idea that, man, that's a lot of stuff this poor lady has to deal with. But then look at the lady. Her partner in Hench doesn't have any things other than general equipment. She's kind of a bodyguard type figure. But they both still have the struggle of putting up with annoying adventurers. I'm just trying to pull out the edges of some of the straps a little more. I don't think I got anything here. In fact, I even don't have it completely covered here, or I rubbed it off somehow, which happens when you're painting. Do a little bit on these. They don't have the rope texture sculpted in, so I decided not to paint them with the same colors as the rope. Although painting them blue might not have 100% been the best choice, because the underlying thing was blue. But this is supposed to be the kind of thing where we're not stressing this stuff too much. What was I fixing? Right, the little bits of leather on the bow. Well, now it sounds like I have ghosts because of all the wind gusty. That's happening. I've never really had the sense that there are any strange happenings in our home or anything. It's just your basic, boring mid-century suburban house. There's no reason to believe anything interesting ever happened here. I'm gonna mostly leave the rope the way it is. Pendrake, I hope someone paints the big sack as a pillowcase. I guess you could add a seam, because I feel like you need a seam to make a convincing pillowcase. Because it's like two flat pieces of cloth sewn together. So I'm not trying to go nuts. Like, I actually spent a decent amount of time. I mean, not like hours or anything, but I spent a little bit of time picking out some areas of the rope texture on the other one. But I feel like the wash has done a lot of work here, and I'm just gonna pull out a few where the light might be hitting it a bit more. I think I, in fact, painted the rope twice on the other one, because after I finished, or thought I finished, it felt too dark to look like rope to me. So I went in and lightened it up some. But I do kind of want to put the separation in between each of the coils. At least just a little more separation. Alright, good enough. And I did the straps. I think I hit all the straps this time. No, I did not. Of course I did not. Because look, here's another whole strap. I mean, I'm bad at finding all the things when I'm focused on just one thing and can use all of my feeble brain for the task, but it's more challenging when I'm on stream and trying to talk at the same time. I was going to say trying to be interesting, but I feel like that would be grievously misdescribing what it is I do here. I lost this line earlier when I was doing the leather. I overshot where the leather goes, but I have a few little touch-ups to do for the metallics, so I'm not going to worry about that. In fact, I won't worry about it. If you robbed an ogre's lair, you'd use his pillowcase to haul off his stuff. I like that in your world you think ogres are sleeping on pillows. I think that's nice. Why shouldn't they have some comfort and whatnot? Why should humans be the ones that get all the comfort? Or humanoids? Well, ogres are still humanoids. This is true. The less refined humanoids, they're still going to want some comfort. And I am taking the time with the lining and would recommend it when you're doing tabletop things if you can. I mean, if you're working on like a bunch of guys and they're all going to die in a few hits, maybe you don't care. But it really helps visually separate everything and make it easier for people to see what is happening when you have some nice lining. This still looks chipped to me. It's weird. Okay, so I was doing the axe strap. And give this another coat since that's clearly not enough ready leather. And then when I shift to the front, we can see if it feels like the ready leather is clashing with the pink a little, which, you know, I mean, I might live with for a hench person that is not going to be the most fashionably attired because they're getting adventure cast-offs and whatnot. No Time for Bull is asking what brush I prefer to use, and it depends on the function. So when I'm doing just the, where am I? When I'm doing just the base coats like that, if I can, I'll use a synthetic brush. I mean, this is a golden Taklon, white Taklon's fine too. But for like painting, I like to use Kolinsky Sable, and I prefer Winsor & Newton, but that is personal. Like I don't have a problem with Da Vinci. I like the kind of the belly to length ratio on a Winsor & Newton. I know some people prefer the longer, thinner style of the Da Vinci's. I also like, this one's a little bigger. So Winsor & Newton, and Da Vinci does these too, but I cannot remember what they call them. So this is a Winsor & Newton Series 7 miniature, and it does have a different shape. So it's more of a, hello camera, more of a cone, where this is more like it's longer and has a fuller belly. But the cone one, these ones, they're nice for detail, for where you're really trying to have a lot more control. The fuller belly is nice for like blending and stuff. And the size thing is interesting too, because this is actually a 0 regular, and then this is a 1 miniature. So brush sizing is just, it's all over the place. They just make it up. So really it's most useful to compare within a line. I mean, it gives you like a rough idea of the size of a brush, but there's no standardization for brush sizes. So switching between brands, that will not help you a lot, other than knowing in the ballpark. With most of the higher quality brushes, they don't do, like, you'll sometimes see synthetics that are like 5-0 or 10-0 or 20-0, and that's no smaller than another brush company's 3-0, which is about as small as it gets. And I occasionally do use the smaller brushes for eyes and details and stuff like that, but something a little larger generally will work better for most things, if you can get it to work, if you can be comfortable with it and get your brush control there. Because the really tiny ones dry out so quickly that it's like you get a little bit of paint and it's starting to dry before you even get between the palette and the miniature. But I do very strongly recommend real Sable Kolinsky brushes, and good quality ones, like not just because it says it's Kolinsky on that. Basically, if you didn't pay at least $10 or $15 for the brush, it's probably not good quality. I have very occasionally seen, I think there's like a brush company in Russia that has just raw wood handles, and they have cheaper brushes, but most of the time, like, I can't think of another case where I've seen a less expensive brush that actually had the same quality as a real Kolinsky. But if you're good to them, and by good to them, I don't mean that you have to be precious. Just taking a little care, like trying not to get, dip it in so that you're getting paint up here in the metal part, and washing them out now and then if you have used them for things like glazes or washes where the paint is thinner and is more likely to wick up there. And then that's why I'm saying, like, I try to use something like this for like base coating these, so that I'm doing poking and pushing with the synthetic brush and saving a little wear and tear on the nice brushes. I did mean to confirm whether this was the color I painted this, and I believe that it is. Just gonna put a little extra on. If this really were a miniature that was gonna get used on the tabletop, that edge is something that is likely to get abraded, so I like to have at least 2 good coats of paint on there, so I've got like a solid paint film built up, so it is more likely to resist the wear and tear of our grubby gamer fingers. And I probably am going to paint some tabletop miniatures. My husband has a couple of games, and I'm thinking, well, since Reaper did those super washes, and I enjoy that style of painting more than I expected when I sat down and tried it, I think I would be willing to do some painting like that. But as they aren't Reaper figures, I won't be able to paint them on stream, or I'll have to go on my own stream or something, I guess. So I want to make this like a darker version of this Ready Leather. So I am mixing in my favorite. I'm sure if I say blue liner, very few of you will be surprised. Now I'm actually looking for a slightly larger of my brushes. And good luck to me. I have like an insane cup of brushes over here. That's just, there are actually 3 cups with brushes within reach of my desk. And then there's like a strange unlabeled division of which ones are the older ones. Basically, I need to go through my brushes is what I'm trying to say. I've been going through my hobby stuff. That's how that color wheel injury happened. But I have not gotten to brushes. I want to, but also it seems like a giant pain in the butt. And I kind of have to figure out how to test them a little bit, I think. And I sort of want to, record it or take pictures to kind of help give other people information on things to look for in brushes, or ways you can use brushes when they're, because I do keep when the sable brushes do wear out, like I don't throw them out. I really don't get rid of them until they're like so worn out that the bristles are just kind of. Do I have a stream channel of my own? Do I have a channel? Yes. Do I use the channel? No. I keep meaning to, and then it'll be like I say, well, I shouldn't, take time doing that until I have this, and this under control. And I never have this, and this under control. So I never get there. But I would like to. I also kind of would like to figure out a slightly better camera situation, but that's a whole other ball of wax. Look at this place that I should have painted with blue liner, and I hadn't. Oh yeah, there's even gray under there, I think. Although, I mean, hopefully if you're at my table, you're not going. If you enter stuff in a contest like at the MSP Open, we judges totally reserve the right to go, did you paint under there? We won't necessarily go looking, but it's like if we spot a little something in the corner of our eye, we might go looking. Do I need more shadow? Is there ever really enough shadow? So yes, my stream channel is bird with a brush. Like, well, I guess if you just follow the picture or something, it goes there. You can see I'm very Twitch adept. I'm trying to figure out now, every time I start Twitch lately, it is showing me this lady making pizza. And I'm not sure what I've ever done on Twitch to lead it to believe that I'm super interested in somebody making pizza. I mean, it's like, I don't have a problem with a 10-hour stream of somebody making pizza. Like, you know, go nuts, have fun. But I don't even like pizza. Suddenly we have no viewers anymore. So I'm just kind of at a loss about why Twitch thinks I'm so very interested in the pizza making. But then my YouTube recommendations have definitely just gone like, what does this have to do with anything I have ever done ever? And it's annoying because I will click, you know, don't show me this channel, don't show me this video. And then every few days, it's like, oh, don't you love sports? We're going to show you a whole bunch of sports. And it's like, no, really, I really don't love sports. I've literally never, ever done anything to lead you to believe that I want to watch, you know, car racing videos on YouTube or anything like that. I have very specific things that I watch on YouTube, and I make an enormous effort to not click anything that doesn't fit into those categories so that it doesn't go all haywire on me. And my efforts are for naught. Oh, Pizza Lady isn't ads. It's a stream. It's a lady who streams. It sounds like 10 hours a day making pizza. It's just like when I open the front page, that's the stream that Twitch is like, oh, don't you want to watch this pizza? I'm like, well, no, I'd probably rather watch, you know, miniature painting or art or the kind of stuff that I have favorited, but okay, you have fun with that, Twitch. I guess perhaps the pizza person is very popular. And she's not making pizza in a hot tub or anything that you might think would make her Twitch popular. She's just in a pizza parlor making pizza. What color do I want as a highlight? I'm wondering if I did a light pink, if that would make the Ready Leather play nicer with her pink top. So I'm going to take the pale violet red, that's what I used on her top, and mix it with a little bit of a lighter color, because that's not very... Making pizza in a hot tub sounds like a great steam idea. Steam, because wouldn't it get... Like, I guess you could toss the dough in a hot tub, but, like, you know, pizza making is supposed to be, you know, you crisp up the crust and you bake it and stuff. It's not a watery activity. But I feel like some innovator somewhere is going to figure out how to make that work. I just lack the imagination. So we'll see if taking my own advice for how to make colors play nicer together actually works. And I will try doing the textures a little bit. So the thing for textures is you want kind of, this way, paints that do have a little bit of opacity, because otherwise you're not going to be able to see the mark. So we'll see if I guessed too wrong. Yeah, I think you can see the marks a little. Probably not quite as much. It'll build up. And then I have to turn it perpendicular to do kind of the weave thing. And I also kind of want to curve it a bit around that shape. Partly because this shape is not, you know, if I were trying to do a perfect check pattern or something like that, this is a stretched out shape, so it wouldn't be the same as if you had a piece of flat paper and you just wrapped it around something round. This is actually stretched. So I need to kind of convey the stretchness and also just make sure that I don't make it obvious that this is painted on texture. I don't think that made sense, but hopefully someone understands what I was talking about there. And this is definitely where those little, I sometimes even do this with a tinier brush. Because if you want to get tiny lines, you need a brush that can make tiny lines, basically. I'm not quite in view. I'm gonna pump the exposure up a little more. Now, as much as possible, if you're really doing this, you want to move the miniature and not your paint hand. But I already moved the miniature a lot on stream in a way that I suspect is annoying, so I'm trying to not go too nuts doing that. Alright, let's go to the next. Quindy LaRue, must be Pizza Princess G you're seeing. She's live now with 2K viewers. That does sound, I think that sounds right. Pizza Princess, that sounds right. I mean, she's on like every time I've been on Twitch the past week or two. That lady makes a lot of pizza. Like a lot. But I assume that's a pizza parlor that she's standing in, so they need a lot of pizza. Sometimes when you get these little smaller parts like this, it's hard to, when you're doing the crosshatch weave, it's hard to see both orientations of it as much. But as long as you get just a little bit of the idea, people's minds and eyes will fill in the rest. So I actually don't mind doing this. I know this is the kind of thing a lot of people think is stressful, but when I'm on my own, because it can, I mean, if you're doing like a cloak or a display type miniature with this type of thing, it can take hours. I mean, it can take hours to do a larger surface. To do this to a really high quality. But, you know, as long as I have like a good audio book or something on Netflix or Twitch or whatever to watch, I'll just, you know, I'll sit here and do this all day. About me. But we are trying not to sit here and do this all day right now. Now, I don't love that there's like a very obvious transition between where that lighter is and where it's a little darker. So I'm just going to mix my two together that I had there and try and fade it off a little more gracefully. And add a little more to some of these wrinkles. That's the finger eraser. I don't really want to apply the eraser brush if I can avoid it, because, and if you have to come back with the shadow color, like, you totally can do that too. Or the, in this case, the mid-tone color. You can go back and forth literally all day long. Queenie LaRue, her family owns a pizza chain in New York. 10 hours a day is a long day, though. Do I want to go? I think I do want to go just a smidge lighter. Just to kind of do a few sort of accent weaves, like places where the cloth is a little lighter, or it got pulled or something like that. Does that even look lighter? I swear I mixed a lighter mix. Why do you not look lighter mix? Now I've probably gone way too far the other way, and I'll be like, ah. And then I'll just have to try to recover it. And if you're really trying to be fast, you can kind of just do this part. Because, you know, if this is on a tabletop, like, really, these ones are probably going to be the ones that people see the most. So hopefully that gives the... I think my ready leather is a bit shiny, so it's kind of... Let's see if I can... I don't think I can soften the light any, but I need to come over on this side and do a little bit of that before I completely forget that there is another side of this miniature, as I am extremely likely to do. And these are the kind of folds where it's going to be hard to make vertical ones that really make much sense. So I'm not even going to try right now. I'm just going to come in with that lighter color at the very end and see if I can get a bit of a hint of vertical. All right, good enough. And I feel like using that little bit of pink in the highlights for that did help cut down on the, you know, red-pink fight a little bit. Hey, Carrie Michael Cosby, thanks for the subscription. So I will actually show you the colors that I used. Now we're talking about that. Maybe. Let's see if I can get them on the screen. So this was the original Ready Leather. And then this is the Ready Leather that I mixed with blue liner to make the shadows. Then I mixed so this is the pale violet out of the bottle. And I mixed it with some, I think I had aged bone and skeleton bone over here because of something else I was working on. So I just mixed a lighter version since I needed it to be highlights. And then mixed that in with the Ready Leather. And then that's another, this is mostly gone, but there's another kind of in-between mix there. And then this is the very lighter color, lightest color that I used to kind of pull out some threads. So that's one way to make colors play nicer together, is if you add some of the one color to the other color, you bring them closer together. You give them traits in common so that they will look less clashy. Pendrake TG, I got a mixture of talking heads and Sharp's rifles as YouTube suggestions the other day. But does that match with what you normally watch, or is it like just a one step over? I notice that whenever I look at anything remotely like what I don't normally watch, YouTube is all over that. They're very excited for me to watch other things. But I don't understand why they're trying to make me watch things that a lot of other people like. Like, how does this help them if I'm watching this, like... I don't know. I don't get how it helps them, and it annoys me, so... I don't understand their strategy. I am trying to make a darker gray now. And oh, I got this walnut brown too. Walnut brown is a similar color to brown liner, but in more of a traditional paint consistency. Pendrake. I followed somebody's link to some band they like. Oh yeah, if you listen to music one time, they will show you all kinds of music. Ooh, well, that's a gunky mess right there. So in order to make sure that it seals better next time I close it up, I'm going to remove the gunky mess. And then stab it with a pokey tool. Which, in case we have someone new to the stream, this is a pokey tool. It's a pin that's been given a handle. Reaper sometimes has these on the web store. I don't know if they do right now. But you can also use unroll a paper clip or get a hat pin or a T-pin one of the problems with dropper bottles is that sometimes they clog, or there's like a little plastic flap that will be in the nozzle sometimes, and that is a way to deal with that. I think Quindy has an answer to my question, but I'm going to make sure I get this wash on first so that I don't end up with tide marks. Gotta be quick with washes and glazes, and you kind of want to follow the wet, pull the wet edge instead of popping around. So that's why I've kind of gone from, I think it's left to right for both of us. I don't know. I can barely figure out directions in the real world, let alone if I have to reverse something on camera or something like that. All right. Quindy says, big streams and or channels get the premium ads that make the platforms more money. The more popular the channel is, the more people subscribe, the bigger it gets, so they get recommended more. Ugh. Well, then the popular people need to make stuff I'm interested in, because that's not what's happening. And I'm getting very annoyed with YouTube about it, because I didn't for a long time, and then the ads started really annoying me. I pay for premium YouTube, so the fact that they're making it suck when I'm giving them money every month is not improving my attitude about this at all. All right, while that dries, I will return to the skin color and paint her poor hands. Quindy has popped a link up in the chat to the Pokey Tools for anyone who might need one of those. They are super handy. I don't know if you were here at the beginning and I had the camera zoomed way out because I was trying to show two pieces of paper on the screen at the same time. You could see the base of my lamp, which is strewn with a very liberal amount of Pokey Tools, because they do eventually get gunked up unless you wipe them off very assiduously after every use, which I clearly do not. And this way, I just kind of let them eventually get gunked up, and then I'll grab them all and scrape it off with a hobby knife and start fresh. Just gonna mix up some skin in advance so I can hopefully do it quickly. Oh, it looks like someone did need to know where to find the extremely useful boogie tools. So I'm glad that I mentioned that. Buglets complains all the time that YouTube suggests stuff he's not remotely interested in and actively tells YouTube he doesn't want to see. Yeah, until recently, it was pretty under control. But the past few weeks, it's like every few days, they'll just come in with these, and it's like what you said, they're things that have 1 million or 2 million views, but they're also like nothing that I have ever watched or said I'm interested in. And it's super annoying that I have to go through and mark. So marking that stuff off used to work. You go in your history if you have, like, so you followed a link of someone to something, and now your YouTube suggestions have gone mental. Go into your history and remove that thing so that it doesn't think you watched it. That can help. But none of that is helping at the moment. It's like it doesn't last more than a couple of days. And I'm kind of like, okay, why am I paying you money for you to aggravate me and make me waste my time telling you stuff I don't like? I started wondering if they were even, because it's Google, if they were taking stuff that I might have looked at on Amazon or somewhere else and factoring that in. I mean, to be fair, not that I've looked at car racing or whatever on Amazon or something else, but every now and then some of the suggestions will be like, well, we kind of talked about something sort of like that, or I did this search, maybe it has something to do with that. But I really hope they don't, because I'm very specific about what I watch and don't like. I won't even click movie trailers. My husband sends me as much. I'm like, you show me on your account, because I don't want it to be full of movie crap. It's like, I wouldn't mind watching some movie stuff now and then. I just don't want all movie stuff all the time. So I'm not going to take the hands up as light as the face. I am going to take them up a lot lighter than they are now. I started with the darkest color. But the idea that, there's like extra light hitting your face is a pretty good way to help keep the focus on a face. This is a mix of Mwangi Brown was the darkest color, and that is one of the Pathfinder colors. I use several Pathfinder colors on this figure, actually. And then Golden Skin Shadow, and I'm mixing in actually another Pathfinder color, now that I think about it. Osirian Sand. Hello, would you like to focus? Because it's got just a little bit of yellow in it. Sometimes when I want to use like a lot of yellow, which I think I used on her pink shirt, I use yellow mold. Well, a lot of yellow compared to painting something that's not yellow, I guess, is what I mean there. But I often like to do warm highlights and cool shadows, so mixing stuff with something that has a bit of yellow in it. Or mixing in a little bit of yellow too if I want. I mean, back before they made those colors that are very helpful to me, I would take white and yellow and make my own version. But premixed colors save me time, so I always love those. out, you can maybe hear my neighbors doing something with. I feel like that sounds like more than a lawnmower. I think someone on the street, or down the street, is doing some kind of renovation or construction or something. It's like not dramatic enough that I see anything when I drive by, but sometimes during the day there are definitely machine sounds happening. Sometimes quite loud. In this case, I don't think it's loud enough that you're going to hear it on stream, but I think sometimes it has been pretty, that kind of loud that it's like such a relief when it stops. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm glad that's over. Her hands are kind of part of the story of this character. She's doing the hard work. So I do want to pay a little bit of attention to them. I do want to try not to go off camera. I always want to try to not go off camera. I'm just very bad. But I think we'll call that good. They do look a fair bit darker than her skin though, don't they? But I can also go a little bit the other direction. Add a bit more of this golden shadow back into her skin. I think she maybe got a little pasty. Alright, what's left? Is this wash dry? It is definitely not. Some metallics are left. That is true. Oh, and the wood from that. Let's do the wood from that while I'm thinking about it. And I'm just going to use skin colors because they're there. And you probably won't be able to tell from the side. Really, there are a lot of skin colors that are fine browns and tans and similar, and there are a lot of browns and tans that are fine skin colors. I nonetheless kind of do keep them separate on my paint shelf. I don't know why, but I do. Alright, what else could I be forgetting? I'm going to add a dark coat to the things that will have the metallic on them. It helps. You have to do fewer coats. These are small areas that I don't want to gunk up too much with thick metallics. Alright. Nope, base is still got the shine. You don't want to mess with stuff while it's still got the shine. Arc of Fire misses painting and used to do it all the time. Well, I hope you get the chance to. I don't know what's preventing you if you've moved or you've had to pack up your painting area or you're just too busy at work. I do find that sometimes I would prefer to have like a big chunk of time to paint, like you want to have 2 or 3 hours or whatever. But when that's not possible, you can still get stuff done in 30 minutes and it can still be fun and it's worth doing. It's helpful to make a note at the end, like, okay, next time I want to work on whatever, so you don't lose that train of thought and you can just quickly get painting. Kind of have your little set of colors out. I have this that I have a couple of these trays that I use for projects or for, I use them for getting stuff together for streams, but I also often, if I'm painting a miniature for Reaper or whatever, I'll have all my colors here so I don't lose track of them. And I can easily, when I have to switch everything around to stream, I can just put that somewhere else and get the colors out that I want for streaming. And it doesn't take a lot of time to switch back and forth that way. Or sometimes there'll be like hobby related things that I'll do if I can't do actual painting. Arc of Fire. That's a great idea. I have stadium paint racks around my desk too. So yeah, maybe you could just make like one section of your stadium paint rack. It's like, this is my current project. I can swap the paints in and out of there when you finish up the project. And then another thing I think can help, if you're at home, like say you're making dinner and you've got like 5 minutes until the timer goes off. Come in and do stuff that gets ready to paint later, so then you can just spend your whole half hour actually painting. Is it, assuming you don't have kids and pets messing with your desk, which admittedly is sometimes why people don't set up in advance. I have kind of worked it out with the cats to not mess with my desk. It took a little while with Archer. It took a long while with Archer. But we got there. I wanted to let him sit on my desk at first, because like, if you want to look out the window, buddy, go ahead. Just don't, be right here where the paint is. Oh, look, you want to be right here where the paint is. So eventually I had to make the desk a no cat zone. And after a few years, he came to an agreement with me about that. He also trained me not to leave the miniatures out. So I'll leave out, the paint pots and stuff like that. But I put the miniatures up. Sometimes, like if I have like something like those Stadia shelves, I might put them on the top of that. Because he chewed on a few miniatures a couple times. And they get weirdly excited about the brushes sometimes. Pendrake is asking whether I have 3 cats. Currently I have 2 cats. Our last Archer left it. Well, we do have the ghost of Archer, I think. I think Ella sees the ghost of Archer. She sees something that the rest of us don't see. Apart from that one time she saw something the rest of us didn't see, and it really was like she would look up all the time, and it turns out that we had a raccoon in the attic, and she was looking at something. Not, she's kind of a space cadet cat, so it's easy to assume that she's just off in another world, seeing things that only Ella can see. But now when she does it, we say she's talking to Archer's ghost. We've talked about getting a 3rd cat, but for a while we were getting, like when one cat was 7 years old, we got another cat. Like when Archer was 7, we got Ella, and when Ella was 7, we found Corbin out on the street, all sad, so we rescued him. We were trying to get the neighbor to take him. I called it, we were playing cat chicken. so like, we're like, okay, like we kind of want to rescue him, but I want the neighbors to do it. Let's see if they'll do it. And then we broke down first. So now we have a Corbin. But I've never had cats that get along, and I think that having that disparity in ages and energy level is probably a problem. So it's like, if we'd gotten a kitten when Corbin was younger, I think that would be good. He's even still kind of an energetic cat, despite his girth and whatnot. But I feel like if we got an actual kitten now, he'd kind of be like, oh God, like this thing does not take enough naps. He needs to appreciate the wonder of naps. So then I'm like, if we got 2 kittens so they entertain each other and leave the older cats alone, but then we'd have like 4 cats, and that's like a lot of cats. Because 3 cats felt like a lot of cats. Felt like way more than double 2 cats. I don't know, cat math might be kind of like goblin math. But we do talk about it sometimes. I feel bad for Corbin because he really does want to be friends with Ella. And Ella really is like, please go away and don't talk to me anymore. And I don't know why she doesn't somehow figure out that he's super warm. Like, she's always cold. It's like, if you cuddled up to this guy, you would never be cold again. He's a very warm cat. So I'm actually overdoing the highlights on here. Because it's just going to be easier to take it down than it's going to be to fuss up the first time. And this is why I like this kind of base. If you go on the YouTube video I made about these 3D printed miniatures, where I was, because a lot of people were concerned when Reaper announced they were doing the 3D printed miniatures and they're going to do some of them for the Kickstarter fulfillment. And I get that. But in the early days, you know, they were fragile. They had the striation lines, the whole thing. I get why people were concerned. So I'm like, well, since I have this one and I had 2 extras, that's why I'm painting another one for you now. I'll take the opportunity to kind of show people what they're like. So I put a video on YouTube, and there's a little snarky comment from Bobby on there about the base stones, because I asked him at, I think it was at ReaperCon, because he was doing them like this lady has, the kind of characters that, for the dungeon dwellers that are supposed to be in dungeons. And I don't enjoy painting this kind. Like, they're harder to do. You see where I kind of did this thing where it's like you can tell the light is coming from this direction because I've highlighted that edge of the things. And that's a lot easier to do with this style of stone. And I don't know, I just kind of like this style in general. You can do like a wash and dry brush on these, but it's hard to make it look nice, where you can still do a wash and dry brush on these if that's all you want to do. But Goblin Mask would be having 20 cats. So I'm like, how many cats does it feel like you have? So I don't know if 3 cats felt like 20, but it felt like a lot more than 2. But to be fair, Archer was a very special cat who required a lot of attention. Partly health-wise, but also just his many demands. He needed peak work out of his servants. So now I'm taking the stone gray, which I like a lot. It's a little bit transparent, so it's kind of a pain to put the first coat on if you want to use that one. But it's really nice for this, where you can just be like, all right, I'm going to be like super rough with these stones. And then if you need to adjust it at all, you can kind of walk it back with, I thinned it down just a little, but walk it back with the stone gray. So, bam, we're done that. Although, what I could do, no, we have to wait till it's dry. I'm going to add a little bit of browns to it so it looks, you know, more dungeony and dusty and dirty and whatnot. Oh, now we're getting some rain. But it's hard to make something look dusty if you're trying to paint on wet paint, so let's not do that. I think that does mostly leave the metallic. Oh, well, and sometimes I save this for the very end, because there's kind of, like, people who do watercolor painting or other paintings like that, often the last thing you'll see them do, especially on videos, is they'll like peel off the tape that was around the edges, and it's like just this very satisfying moment, and then it looks like a real painting and whatnot. And I feel like painting the base rim is the miniature painting version of that. It's like putting it in a frame or something. So I'm kind of skipping ahead, but I'm going to go ahead and do it because things are drying. When I first started painting, I would sometimes kind of customize the rim color to the figure. So like this one, I might have done a really dark blue or dark pink or something. And I still like that idea, but then it was kind of like, okay, well, if something gets chipped or scraped and I have to repaint it, I now have to try to remember what color I painted the base rim. And that seems mental, so I will go along with everyone else's wise idea and just use black. And then also once I started, you know, painting miniatures for like Reaper or whatever, they should certainly have the option of, if the base gets scraped up in the gallery, that they know they can just put black paint on it and fix the problem. So I stopped trying to be that unique. Maybe I should still do it for contest miniatures. All right. I'm trying to kind of leave the metallics for the end so that I don't end up with flakes on my stone base or whatnot. So I'm just going to take some of the brown that's already on my palette, thin it down, and just kind of scrub it some places. Because it's a dirty, dirty dungeon. And this is something that I also will do to tie things in, because I can take some of that blue color too. I mean, there can be like blue tinges to gray stones. I can take the pink color even. And then everything looks like it's part of the same world, is what I figure. And I've added a little bit of visual interest, complexity, whatever you want to call it. You can do this with weathering powders and stuff as well. Especially if I want to make the boots look dusty, like if I was painting like dried out desert earth kind of thing, and I wanted the boots to look like the person had been walking through the dried out desert environment, I would probably prefer to use weathering powders because they're powdery and it's easier to get on the boots and have it look powdery. You can make paint look like mud stains and dust and whatnot, but some things it's easier to use something that's closer to what you're simulating than just pure paint. And we have options, so why not use options? All right, my base metal color was this blade steel, which I like. It's kind of a warm gray metallic. So that's what's on her hat and shoulder pads and the spearhead. But I did like shading with matte paints. But the areas that I have to work on now are mostly pretty small. So there's the thingies on her feet, which may need a little bit of shading. There's a belt buckle. There's this clasp. And, oh, the rings on the end of the bow are supposed to be metal, right? I don't know. They're gonna be metal. Are they supposed to be metal? I feel like that's how I see people paint them. And I do still use my tiny little brushes. Sometimes I try to use the older ones. I don't really think metallics are that. You know, yes, there's a flake. It's not that rough on a brush. I mean, we're rubbing over 3D surfaces all the time. That's as rough, so I'm not worried about a tiny little bit of metal flake now and then on my fancy brushes. Am I in focus? I feel like no. Oh, and there was that section that I kind of messed up. So we will take this opportunity to bring that back as well. These are most likely to need multiple coats. I'm going to do them now. Although, yeah, that dark color works pretty well. Her feet are one of those things that are just in a weird position for trying to see, reach the brush, and have you see what I'm doing. So I'm probably not going to be able to accomplish all 3 of those things. well, just that back foot. Well, no, then this foot has the problem of the spear haft obstructing the brush. But that's part of the fun that we get from painting 3D things, right? So does anyone else have any tips for, how to paint when your time is in short supply? I do have an article on my blog about that now that I think about it. It's not just that. It's dealing with painting challenges. It's like time, energy, time and space. I think it's dealing with restrictions of time and space ideas. I don't mean in a Doctor Who sense. I do not have any suggestions for that, but for dealing with it when you have limited space and limited time. Unfortunately, I do not remember enough to suggested Quindy what to look for. I feel like it was a New Year's post or soon after New Year's post. But that's all I got. And then I have another one of kind of hobby ideas to do when you don't have the mental energy or whatever to paint. Like you have time, but you just can't deal with actual painting. And that's stuff like you do the swatches. We've talked about swatches. You go through your old brushes, you organize some stuff, you clean some stuff up so that when you are ready to get back in there, everything's in good shape and you've probably even improved kind of your resources and your references and you're good to go. There's lots of things like that you can do. The kind of thing that normally when you're painting, you're like, oh, I wish I had samples of all my colors. I wish I had organized this. But you never want to take the time because you're painting. So if you're in a situation where for some reason you're not painting or putting together army guys or whatever other things you like to do when you do have mental energy, there are some things like that that are useful to do. Oh, paint maintenance. That's one. That is a very good one to do. And I think I've talked about paint maintenance on a previous episode. I definitely have a blog article on paint maintenance. Because when I did mine in 2020, because I was looking for, hobby activities for tough times. In 2020, when I was looking for something to do that did not require any brain power, and I had for various reasons, had not done paint maintenance as quickly as I should have done. I like to do it at least every 2 years. And I had left it longer than that because we were doing things with the house and I had a bunch of stuff packed up and I just didn't feel like it. And didn't have time. So there were definitely some paints that needed some TLC by the time I got to it. And even I've been doing different kind of swatches, so I've been going through a lot of my paints, and I think I ended up doing some of my paint maintenance last year. And I'm kind of surprised that some of them were, the nozzles were all gunked up. Where, like, that's the biggest problem I'll find I have, is that paint gets in the nozzle, like it gets up here, there'll be a little clump of paint, like in the neck and this area, and that starts thickening up even though this paint is fine. So I have to pop that off and, grab the clumpy bits and put it back in the main area. Sometimes I add water, sometimes I don't have to have water. Depends on how far gone it is. And then stir it. If it's very far gone, you have to stir it. Like you can't, shaking is never going to be enough if something's really starting to clump up. Or it's lost a lot of water. But stirring, you can get a surprisingly gunky paint back with some stirring. Alright, so I'm going to just take a little thin down blue liner and add some shadows. And then I had added a bit of brown in areas on the other armor so that it didn't look too, you know, factory new, I guess. Straight off the line. Because this is somebody who uses their stuff. They're not all pristine and everything. So adding a little bit of brown along with it helps convey that idea. And oh, right, the bits around the bow, I kind of lost my lining here. And it looks sloppy. So we'll just fix that up. Check for anything else I forgot. If you see something I forgot, which you know I will have, say something in chat, or don't say something and just laugh at me. That's fine too. Let's see. So all of that has stuff. I could put highlight on that metal, but I'm not gonna. Oh, I did say that I might. Where are we time-wise? We have some time. That I might put blue on the fletching with a glaze. And I think I used the Hobgoblin blue last time for the glaze. And then, so this Hobgoblin blue is from Pathfinder, who made their own name for their paints. And then this Hobgoblin blue is in the main Reaper line. And it just amused me to use both of them. So that's what the blues are on her outfit. But you can see this one, and this is why I like doing these swatches. This is actually a more intense color of blue than it looks like when you look at it full strength. Where this is weak, you know, this clearly has a lot of white in it. It's not gonna be great as a tinting color, so I'm gonna use this other blue. Green users. When I don't have the energy to paint or sculpt, I make chainmail armor for stuffed animal toys. And amazing chainmail armor for stuffed animal toys. Which I keep putting that guy to, you know, nearby and saying I should show him next stream, and then I don't, because I have a Swiss cheese brain, clearly. But I will have to try harder. Maybe I could put him with my Beyond the Kit colors, and then he'd be right there. But for this glazing type thing, the clear colors that Reaper makes, like there's clear blue, clear red, those can be even better because they're kind of like matte inks is how I've started to think of them. They're very intense color, but they're transparent. That's why. And put clear in the name so that people would know what they were getting into using them. But they're sort of like the purest pigment Reaper paints. So they're very intense colors. And we had someone who had bought the clear blue recently, I think, when I was painting the blue clothes, so I did put a glaze of that over her hood, mantle, whatever that is. But not over the pants, because I wanted this to be more the focus area. So I want to put more intense colors here. And lighter and more contrast. I want to put more contrast here one way or another. And I know you're thinking of contrast as, you know, the difference in color between the little shadow wrinkle here and the top part here. But it also refers to, you know, the shininess of this metallic paint contrasts with the matte paint. So that's a kind of contrast. The intense, more intense blue and pink contrast with the less intense, you know, dull brown and reddish browns and stuff. So there's lots of different kinds of contrast. And using more of them in the areas that you want people to spend more time looking at or to look at first is an effective way of helping direct the viewer's eye. And that can include the shadow highlight contrast. That is the thing we talk about most in miniature painting. And is certainly important. It's what makes things look three-dimensional. But other kinds of contrast are also very important for various things. And can add a lot of interest. So that's what I was saying with the original. And why don't we compare the original to this one now that she's pretty much done. I wasn't sure that I got enough contrast in some of those areas of interest, around the face. And that's partly what I was kind of playing around with this version to see if I could do it a little better. And I think it did. So even though I spent probably, 1/6 of the time on this figure, well, 1/3, we'll say 1/3 of the time, there are things that it does better than the one I spent a lot of time on. It's not all about fancy blending and the fact that this one has eyeballs and this one doesn't. I do feel bad for her. I might have to try to give her eyes later. I keep looking at her and going, well, I said it didn't matter, but now I'm not sure. But certainly it would depend on like what level of tabletop person she was. If this was like a hench person that was in the party and we were going to see every week, I would go ahead and take the time to put eyes on them. But it is hard for me to put eyes on things on stream. So that is why I didn't. I wear higher magnification, and I can hold the miniature a lot closer to my face when I'm not painting on stream. And I'm all old and my eyes are gone, so these things are required. So I'm pretty sure that I did get everything. But I am going to give the base just another, again, because I like to have a strong paint film. So that's where there's enough acrylic holding the binder together and holding the binder to your surface. That's a strong paint film. And the other thing that will help this be a strong paint film is that if I were painting this to play, I would try to paint it at least a couple of days before the game, so that the paint would have time to fully cure to, peak hardness. And then if I wanted to seal it, I would try and actually finish like 4 days before the game, give the paint 2 days to cure, then seal it, and then give the sealer 2 days to cure. And then it should be as sturdy as I could make it, assuming that I did all the stuff that I told you about in the prep show, which included washing it. I dipped them in alcohol, actually, make sure there's like no grease on there. And then I primed this. So I think I like to prime this 3D printed stuff. And I'm increasingly inclined to prime Bones USA. I still don't prime Bones Classic or Bones Black, because I don't feel it's necessary to get the paint to stick well. What could I briefly paint in the meantime? I don't know if I can paint, but I want to see. I always get spam calls when we're doing the streams. I don't know. I want to see if I can. I feel like peach is just this weirdly hard color for me to mix. So I want to paint her jacket peach. And I'm going to goof around with doing some color mixes and see what I come up with. So this is kind of just a little too orange, and this is a little too pink. So my first idea is going to be mix these together. This is Red Neon Glow, which I love as to use as a highlight color on red, like really intense bright red. Because it's not orange when you don't want the red to go orange, but then if you use white, it's going to go pink. And this kind of splits the difference. This is like orange that has some white in it. And you can mix that yourself too, but I'm going to actually make 2 pulls of that because I'm concerned this isn't going to be very dark. This is Doxy Blush, which is like a very soft pink. That also has some white in it, so it's never going to be pastel land. But I want to try taking this violet red. It's not quite magenta, so it's a pinky red. I mean, it's This is the color of the year, I think, the Pantone color of the year. I don't know how they got to be the people who decide what the color of the year is. But anyway, this is like the color that they're calling magenta. That's the color of the year. But I think of magenta as, where is it? Like in terms of mixing colors and stuff, to me that is magenta. And this is more red. So you're going to be able to mix a nice purple with this. You're not going to get as true a purple with that one. I mean, it still might be a useful color, but if you're trying to mix like really true colors, I don't feel like that. Is that even salmony? It really doesn't seem peachy. Do the paper test. No, see, that's just like alternate pink. But maybe we need more. We just need more of the other one. You know, this feels peachy. Or like I've just made peaches and cream skin color. Which let's confirm, because I always, this is canceled now, but I always kind of like bright skin shadow. That, oh, look at me making a replacement for bright skin shadow. But maybe that's what peach is. I don't know. I think that might look nice for her. But I do want to see if I can make a darker version still. Because it's going to need shadows. I mean, this is a pretty light color. I might not even want it that light in general. Like, I don't want to... Her face already doesn't stand out enough. I think I need to change her hair color. Is that better? Is that somewhere in between? Nope, still not peachy enough. That's a little... That works as a shadow for that, I think. Not quite dark enough. What happens if I make myself work more? So we got the violet red. Go get some real orange. Maybe. Do I have a real orange here? A marigold yellow. Sure. It's not orange, but that's okay. And a darker gray. So one way to desaturate things is to mix in the color complement. We go back to my, I can't find my real color wheel, but so I'm kind of trying to make something around here, I guess, in a way. So I could come over here and get sort of a teal or green, mix a little bit of that in. Another way to desaturate things is just to mix in gray. You'll get a richer color with the other method, but this can be a lot easier. Or we can make some very lovely mud. But I just had too much gray, I think. So I think that works as a shadow color for that. But out of curiosity, and again, because I just find that very few miniature paint lines, like if any, that I can think of off the top of my head, really include much peach. And I always kind of have trouble mixing it. And you may be in the same boat, where I don't mean with peach specifically, but that there's some color that you are having trouble mixing. So I like to kind of share some tips for mixing colors. So I want a tealish, ideally, which I don't think I really have a teal in the colors I'm using now, apart from the pink, are colors from the, so there's the Learn to Paint Kit, Core Skills, Learn to Paint Kit, Layer Up, and then each of those have expansions. So I kind of keep some of the, I keep the colors from that set to the side, so that there's a reason that this show is called Beyond the Kit. Oh, wait. I have turquoise. I do have a greeny blue. Because that wilderness green looks like it has some white in it. But that could look like the shadow area of the fruit. But yeah, it's not orange enough to be the fruit. I don't know if it needs to be like straight up like the fruit, but that would be a good practice for mixing, because I guess the first step would be to go get a picture of a peach fruit so I had some remote clue of what I was doing. So these are the ones that I was desaturating with gray. And this is by adding the turquoise. So it stays richer, but let's say it's not desaturated enough. We'll saturate it some more. And it's still richer. It makes it a lot darker. But it doesn't kind of wash it out as much as the gray, which, you know, sometimes you might want stuff to be washed out. Like, I'm not saying washed out like it's a bad thing. All of these things have their place. It just depends on what you're doing. So let's make this one a peachier peach. See if it's more like the fruit by adding in that marigold. I think that's more like the fruit. Does it look like it would look good on her? I feel like she needs a slightly pinkier one, but I'm happier with that color. And now I'm going to take a little bit of that turquoise and mix it on the side and see what we get. There may be too much something in there, and it doesn't quite work out. It's very dull, but not dark enough. So I think you do have to start with a bit more red. And then add the green to get a dark color that's... It's taking the green, not the turquoise. And it's just, I'm using a very little bit, because when you do start getting colors like that that are, you know, further apart, it doesn't necessarily take a lot to make an effect. So that's very dark. But let's see. It's a little bit darker. I ran out of my violet red. The other reason I do this is so that people who don't feel comfortable wasting paint can at least watch somebody do it. But I say don't stress too much about the whole wasting paint deal. I'm not wasting it. I'm learning something. And really, I don't know. Does anyone remember how many drops of paint Anne says are in a bottle? And I feel like it's 300 or 400. And I've used maybe 10 drops total, I think. Let's even go nuts and say I used 20. That's still, I can't do math, so I don't know what percentage that is. That is not very much of the bottle. Not sure my turquoise is fully shaken. Not stirred. I think that's getting closer for a shadow color. It's one of those tough colors to shade, I think. 300, 400 sounds right to Quindy. So I know that it seems like I use a lot of paint today, but it's really, compared to what's actually in a bottle, it's not that much paint. And definitely, if you do want to be frugal with your paint, that whole paint maintenance thing I was talking about is way more important than just, you know, using just one tiny little drop here and there. Because it doesn't help you if you've been very careful and you've hardly used any paint and it's 10 years later and now this is thickening up and it's too gunky to use. Well, you didn't really save anything. So that's my advice, is to do your paint maintenance. But I think we're pretty close. So I'm going to just call it for now. I don't know if anyone has any questions about... Quindy's put the link into the article I have about how to take care of your paint, because I do have some tips in there, some tools you can use. Although I think I got these after. These are out of windshield wipers, I think. But they're metal and they're flat. So it's a little bit like a palette knife, but for a dropper bottle size palette knife, I guess. So it's like that. And let me put the cover on here. Oops. Apologies for shaking things. Now I'm not straight. So when you do got to go in here, and I'm not going to do this on a metallic bottle because I don't want to mess with that. If you got to go in here and there's some stuff gunked in there, you can kind of scoop it out. You can do this with an old brush too. And here in this case, this is actually fully dried out. So I'm not putting this back in the bottle. I'm taking that out. Sometimes you can't recover what's up there. And that one, I just picked this randomly. I didn't think it was gunky. And then if you need to stir, this is solid enough to get in there. Old brush handles work too. The problem with round objects is it's hard to wipe the paint off, where this is easier to get most of the paint off. But again, doing this kind of, stirring your paint now and then, checking that there's enough water, is going to make your paint last longer and work better than never touching it and using just tiny drops. So this is another thing that it seems like it's wasteful, and it is not, because you're extending the life of the paint. I have paints from the original Reaper paint release in, I don't know, was it 93? When they first came out with these paint. I have workable paints because I've done that. They're still fine. And I go through my backup paints too and do it now and then. Pendrake says, drops of paint in a bottle, 403 to 406. That is what Anne said one time on a show. Wow, I didn't realize she'd ever been that specific. That's very specific. So that's a lot. And what I just wiped off of there was probably 3 at most. You know how liquid is. It always looks like there's more. You spill a tablespoon of something and it just seems like it goes all over the whole table or whatever. So it seems like you're wasting a lot of paint, and paint maintenance is super messy. You want to have lots of paper towels and wear a shirt you don't care about. Cover your table. But it's really more important for the longevity of your paint than not using it. Because when you're not using it, you're not shaking it. And at a certain point, once you haven't shaken it, you need to stir it. That was the nice thing about the old twist off bottles. It was really easy to see and then stir if there were problems. But the paint would go off more and we'd get little chunks in it from dried paint falling in. And those are easy to spill. Ask me how I know that seems like more than a tablespoon of liquid, because I did that. I think I spilled a ball of platinum silver or something all over our table. I managed to scrape a lot of it back into the bottle, so it didn't hurt the table, but it did make quite an impressive mess. Anyway, Pendrick says Anne can be very specific about some things, which is true. If you haven't watched her show, she paints every day, Monday to Friday, every day. Here on Twitch, on the Reaper channel, I want to say starting at 11:30 Reaper time. Quindy or Pendrick will correct me any minute now. And I don't always, I don't always paint a miniature to completion. Sometimes we're doing experiments. Sometimes I'm trying out different brushes and seeing what kind of marks we can get from them. Sometimes I'm just, here's how you paint red or whatever. It's actually not that common that I paint a miniature from start to finish. But that is what Anne does, and she paints a different one every day, I believe. Not to completion, like she's working on a series of them. She just switches them up so that it's not like you're watching the same one all week. You're watching a different one every day, and then she circles back around. And Quindy confirms that does start at 11:30. And Anne is the person who formulated these paints for Reaper, and she has a tremendous amount of color knowledge, pigment knowledge, and all that kind of good stuff. And she paints. It's fun. We paint kind of similar, but also kind of differently, because I don't. Most of that, when you saw me working today, unless I said it was a wash or a glaze where I was just tinting something, I wasn't thinning my paints, where Anne thins her paints more. But I mix a lot more steps in between my shadows and my highlights, and she works with fewer. So there's multiple ways to get to places, and that's why it's good to watch different people do their thing, because you can get some ideas for stuff you can try to figure out what works best for you. I'm going to let Quinny find us a raid, because I'm sure that someone is doing something cool on Twitch. If nothing else, she's going to send us to the Pizza Princess. But I suspect that she is going to find something more hobby-oriented. My guess is Art of Mike Disney. We've been hopping over to Art of Mike Disney. I think he must always stream on Mondays as well. But I will let Quinny make that choice, because she knows what's there, and I don't, since I haven't looked in an hour or 2 hours since I logged on and saw Pizza Princess at work. I've never actually seen it like that. She tossed them in the air. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to have to watch the channel for a minute and see how she makes the pizzas. But I will see you here next week. I'll be working on a different miniature. If you want that one, you can get it as a gift with purchase today and tomorrow. And then they'll be on to a new miniature. So I'll see you next week. I hope you all have a good time watching Art of Mike Disney. See you later.